Chapter 1156. The heart of the desert could activate Elvis's Beast King bloodline, while the love of the sky could fulfill Gu Mingming's wish of giving birth to a nest of little foxes. Which one do you want first? Should she charge into the trap that Cole had set up in a hurry during the winter, or explore the unknown mystery of the Moda Mountains? Leah played with Gu Mingming's silky hair and said softly, "The way the 16 valued females treated Maya, Cole must have known that you have discovered Maya's identity. So, should we try to cover things up or should we try to cover things up? Between soul of the forest and love of the sky, which is the real smokescreen? Or could it be that the spirit of the rocky cliffs that we have never mentioned is the real target?" Cole must be having a headache now. Gu Mingming smiled too. She had always thought that she had been played by Cole and had forgotten that her fox was the wisest person in the beast world. If they were to really compete in strategizing, her fox would definitely not lose to that cripple Cole. After all, using Maya given by Cole to create a Saint Nazir that Cole could not touch was the best proof. Lee's fingers twirled around Gu Mingming's hair, playing with it tirelessly. His gaze was gentle and casual, as if he was comfortable with this kind of life. It was clear that he would have to face a great storm after the Han dynasty was broken, but his tone was calm and indifferent, as if he was casually discussing some gossip. "It's impossible to use 3 routes during winter, so I guess that Cole will definitely throw out the bait after winter ends. Whether you want to take the bait or not, it's up to you. And I will be responsible for letting you escape unscathed." Gu Mingming chuckled and nodded. It would be more advantageous if they could obtain the heart of the desert first. If Elvis could also become a beast king, then Xianhuan's incident would not happen again. Because no matter what happened, Gu Mingming only needed to protect her little cub and leave the rest to Elvis to handle. But how many unforeseen events would occur in this exchange? Gu Mingming turned around and asked Elvis, "Hubby, do you want to be the beast king?" Elvis answered without hesitation, "Yes." Gu Mingming nodded. That's right, males' thirst for power was an instinct no matter which world they were in. "I want to become someone worthy of you," Elvis added, hugging Gu Mingming's little head and kissing it. Gu Mingming's heart warmed and she smiled softly. Everything her husband did was because of her. "All right, I got it." Gu Mingming chuckled and decided to play along. Cole couldn't figure out what she was planning, so how could she completely guess his plan? But since Leah was so confident, he decided to take a gamble. Their fox would definitely not lose to that cripple Cole when it came to scheming. As he thought about it, he actually felt a trace of anticipation. 3 days later, the snow covering the entrance of the cave melted. Gu Mingming, who was draped in the giant rabbit skin, was carried out of the cave by Elvis. Gu Mingming's little face was half hidden under the hood, revealing only her small mouth and delicate chin. Her entire face could not be seen clearly, but it gave off a sense of beauty that made one's imagination run wild. When she arrived at the platform of the deity's punishment, there were already 3 families gathered there. When they saw Gu Mingming, they all bowed respectfully. Chapter 1157. Elvis carried Gu Mingming straight up the platform of the deity's punishment. After he stood still, he howled into the sky, causing the birds in the forest to flap their wings and soar. Even the snow on the tree branches rustled and fell. After this howl, the entire sky above Saint Nazir reverberated with the roars of wild beasts. Gu Mingming was shocked the first time she heard it. But after hearing it twice, she felt very excited. Pulling Elvis's arm, Gu Mingming asked softly, "Hunting, can you bring me along?" Elvis caressed Gu Mingming's hair, his gaze gentle and affectionate. His tone was full of indulgence and helplessness as he said, "I know you are very strong, but even so, I still don't want my female to face those bloody and violent scenes. Can you understand me?" Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and nodded. Actually, in Snake's memories, blood and violence were the basic norm. She was originally afraid of blood, but after inheriting over 1,000 years of Snake's memories, now, even if Gu Mingming had to personally dismember her prey, she would not hesitate. But Gu Mingming still decided to accept Elvis's heartache. Elvis kissed the top of Gu Mingming's head and did not say anything else. With the 16 valued females gathered, Gu Mingming waved her hand to summon Mandy to sit beside her. Then, she swept her gaze across them one by one and the corners of her lips lifted. "Liana, come here." Gu Mingming pointed at Liana, who had 2 more little lions beside her. Liana smiled sweetly and jumped down from the beast pet. With each hand, she carried her sons up the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mingming looked at the seat beside her and said, "Sit here." Liana was extremely happy. Ever since she knew she was pregnant, she had been looking forward to this day. Receiving the great messenger's appreciation and recognition was really a very, very glorious thing to her. Although she was just sitting quietly beside the great messenger, it was as if she could see her entire body glowing. "Page, come here too." Gu Mingming then pointed at a male from the eagle owl tribe standing beside her and a female with 6 little eagle owls hanging on his body. Page smiled happily and was also sent up the platform of the deity's punishment by her own male. Gu Mingming nodded. She was in a good mood. This was the 3rd winter since she came to the beast world. In the first year she gave birth to Hutta's quadruplets. In the second year she encountered too many disturbances which caused the females to be unable to conceive peacefully. As a result, not a single new life was born in St. Nazir last year. Although only these 2 females were pregnant this year, at least there were 8 more little ones, so the tribe would not be lonely anymore. Gu Mingming held Mandy's hand and gave her a warm gaze. Then she stood up and announced, "From today onwards, Paige will replace Mandy as the first beauty of the beast world. Liana replaced me as the first beauty of St. Nazir." From then on the first day of winter every year, the males would go on their first hunt to compete for the title of the tribe's #1 warrior. The females will go through a beauty contest, and based on the total number of cubs, the most beautiful female in the beast world and the most beautiful female in the tribe will be chosen. Chapter 1158. As the previous most beautiful female in the beast world, Mandy was exceptionally generous at this moment. She stood up and walked to Paige. She held Paige's hand lightly and smiled. "In the future, the title of most beautiful female in the beast world will be yours. You must guard this glory well and always remember the great messenger's teachings. You must never disappoint the great messenger. The 16 valued females will be your backing and will always support and protect you. But at the same time, we are all your competitors. I will work even harder next winter, and by then, I will definitely snatch back the title of the beast world's first beauty." Paige was a female from the deer tribe. Herbivores did not have the wildness of carnivores. She looked delicate and adorable. Her eyes sparkled when she smiled. She looked extremely innocent. She twisted her body and held Mandy's hand back. "Don't worry, I will not let everyone down. But I have already promised my Clark that I will give birth to a litter of fawns for him next year. So whether I can snatch back the title of most beautiful female in the beast world is still uncertain." The conversation between the 2 females was not too heated. Both of them behaved appropriately. This made Gu Mingming feel comforted. Although she grew up watching palace dramas, she really did not like the feeling of scheming against each other. It was the best situation for Gu Mingming that the females in the tribe could coexist peacefully. "Great messenger." A soft and timid voice came from below the platform of the deity's punishment. Gu Mingming looked towards the source of the voice. It was Maya. Frowning slightly, Gu Mingming did not show any obvious hostility. She just smiled politely and asked, "What's the matter?" "I'm pregnant too." Maya lowered her head shyly. She did not dare to look at Gu Mingming in the eyes. Gu Mingming stared at Maya's flat stomach in confusion. Maya saw that Gu Mingming was not saying anything and added, "It's a female cub." Gu Mingming raised her brows in surprise. She had placed her hopes on Sandy's stomach. But Sandy gave birth to 3 male children and St. Nazir's first female cub was actually in Maya's stomach. It was ironic, but there was nothing she could do. Waving her hand, Gu Mingming said, "Then you come up too." Maya nodded obediently and allowed her partner to lift her onto the platform of the deity's punishment. Coming to Gu Mingming's side, Gu Mingming wanted to hold her hand but suddenly put it down. She frowned slightly and her gaze was cold. "It's not easy to give birth to a female cub. Take good care of it." Gu Mingming turned around and shot Mandy a look, meaning that Maya was now pregnant with a female child. In that case, all actions against her would have to stop. After all, regardless of what happened to Maya, a female child was too precious. Mandy understood and nodded. Then she whispered something into Liana's and Paige's ears. This was a secret code between the 16 valued females. To Maya it was just an ordinary greeting. Only the 16 valued females understood what it meant. Alright, the beauty contest is over. Now it's time for the males to show off their skills. As Gu Mingming said, she walked to Elvis and wrapped her arms around his neck to kiss him. She smiled and said, "Hubby, it's all up to you now." Chapter 1159. Roar. With a deafening roar, Elvis kissed Gu Mingming heavily again before transforming into a black wolf and leading the pack of beasts to attack. That roar shook the earth and the sky. The scene was so spectacular that it made one's blood boil. Gu Mingming supported her chin with her hand as she watched Elvis leave. She kept a smile on her face and clearly said, "My hubby is so handsome." After a long while, Elvis could no longer be seen. Gu Mingming then retracted her gaze and leaned into Li's arms. She looked at Maya and said, "Maya, you don't have to wait here today. Go back to the cave and have a good rest." This. Maya was very surprised. She blinked innocently at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming smiled and said, "You are carrying the first female cub in Saint Nazaire. It's very precious. I don't want anything to happen to you. Your top priority now is to protect the fetus and give birth to this female cub safely. You don't have to care about anything else, understand?" "All right." Maya answered obediently before letting her males carry her back. After Maya left, Gu Mingming and Leah exchanged glances but neither of them said anything. Mandy, Liana and Paige sat on the platform of the deity's punishment to accompany Gu Mingming. The three of them kept glancing at Leah. Their gazes were not aggressive but still made one feel uncomfortable. It was like the first day of school when the girls gathered together to secretly discuss their female classmates who had gone for plastic surgery during the holidays. Gu Mingming held her forehead and said, "Just say what you want to say. The strange gaze makes one very uneasy." Mandy was the most familiar and closest to Gu Mingming among the 16 valued females. So Liana nudged her to ask the question on behalf of everyone. Mandy fidgeted but still took 2 steps forward and said, "That? Leah seems to have become more good-looking after this winter. We want to ask, did something happen? Better looking?" Gu Mingming turned back to look at Leah with a face full of suspicion. By right, every time the males of the Snow Fox tribe leveled up, there would be some changes to their looks. So when Leah leveled up from the 3rd level to the 4th, Gu Mingming clearly felt that he had become more handsome and less charming. But now he had not leveled up, so how could there be any changes? Not good-looking? Leah allowed Gu Mingming to size him up for a long time. Seeing that she did not show any signs of infatuation on her face, he was slightly dissatisfied. He pinched Gu Mingming's chin and shook it a few times. Then he flipped his hair and opened his thin lips slightly, revealing his white teeth and the tip of his moist tongue. He leaned forward, almost touching the tip of Gu Mingming's nose, saying softly, "How about this? Does it look better? Or, do I have to take off this troublesome animal skin dress before you'll know I'm good-looking?" Gu Mingming blushed and slapped Li's face. "Why are you acting like a hooligan in broad daylight? You're my female. Flirting with you isn't called being a hooligan. After all, I have the responsibility to please you." With that, Leah leaned towards her, looking like he was going to eat her up in front of everyone. Ah! An irrepressible howl of excitement came from the 3 females who were hugging each other and jumping on the spot. Their eyes were filled with love. "No." Gu Mingming wanted to cry but no tears came out. When she said that Fei Rui was still a child, Leah and Elvis refuted her and she accepted it. After all, Fei Rui was already a 2nd-level beast and was considered an adult. But this bun, heavens and earth, he was really a child and the kind that was still in swaddling clothes. How twisted did she have to be lustful towards a bun? Chapter 1161. Liana. Gu Mingming called out, gesturing for the little lion's mother to carry the child away. But Liana smiled shyly and said, "Great messenger, if you like him, just keep him. Nelson and I are both perfect orcs. I was the first beauty in my original tribe, while Nelson was the first warrior in his original tribe. Our child will definitely be healthy and beautiful, and will become a powerful male in the future." Gu Mingming sighed and said, "I know he will be an outstanding child, but I am not a strange aunt. The next time I go to Sauter, bring the 2 brothers along with me. Sauter should have a female cub born this year. We must nurture our relationship from a young age." With that, Gu Mingming looked at Paige and said, "You should also come with me. After all, females are precious and rare, try not to let them go to outsiders." Paige smiled and nodded and said, "I will listen to the great messenger's arrangements." Lina was also smiling. Her personality was different from Mandy's. She was the carefree type, and her likes and dislikes were all written on her face. If it wasn't for the fact that her family's males were strong, she wouldn't know how badly she would be bullied with her carefree attitude. Just like before winter, when the 16 valued females were discussing how to teach Maya a lesson, only Liana opened her mouth to criticize her. It was not that others did not stand by and do nothing, but that she was too powerful and others could not even interrupt. Gu Mingming actually liked this kind of straightforward person. Sometimes she might not speak nicely, but at least you did not have to worry about her stabbing you in the back. Liana carried the little lion and sat cross-legged beside Gu Mingming. She tilted her head and looked at Leah, then asked, "Great messenger, You still haven't told me what happened to your family during winter? Look at how much prettier the witch doctor has become. His skin is so good that it is glowing. Gu Mingming then turned back to look at Leah carefully again. Yeah, his skin had really become better than before, it was just that she did not feel it because she was looking at him every day. But now that Liana mentioned it, Gu Mingming touched it. Tisk, it was as smooth as congealed fat. Tisk. Gu Mingming shook her head in disdain and said, can't you give females a way out? Why are you so good-looking as a man? You'll only like me if I'm good-looking. Leah chuckled as he understood the boasting and pride in Gu Mingming's disdain. He pinched her little face dotingly and felt that the more he looked at her, the more he liked her and the cuter she was. Gu Mingming could not suppress the smile at the corner of her lips. She turned her face towards Liana and did not look at Leah. She pretended that she did not see him and answered Liana, it should be because he drank the grape wine. The few barrels of grape wine that I prepared before winter all went into his stomach. He became like this after playing a drunken game with Elvis and me for an entire winter. Grape wine? Liana's eyes sparkled as she looked at Gu Mingming and asked, then, do you still have that grape wine? Can you give me some too? I want to give some to my Nelson to make him look good too. It was beautiful. Was it really okay to use such adjectives on males? Was Gu Mingming the only one who found it weird? Sighing, Gu Mingming shook her head and said, no more, Leah drank it all by himself. Oh. Liana pouted her lips in disappointment and lowered her head. Digression, alright my babies. Today's update has ended. He often sighed and said that he wasn't good-looking enough. He was worried that I wouldn't like him in the future. In order to not let his imagination run wild, I only mated with him this entire winter in order to give birth to a litter of cubs for him. I originally thought that he wouldn't feel inferior anymore, but he actually asked me if I didn't owe him anything after I gave birth to the child, and if I would never love him again. Question. Chapter 1163. Liana looked at Gu Mingming speechlessly, like a lost young girl waiting for her spiritual mentor to answer her questions, completely at a loss of what to do. Gu Mingming chuckled, the beast world and the ancient times were simply swapped versions of men and women. Palace scheming was all acted out by the males. It would be easier if she met a smart one, but this Liana was obviously not on the same level as that fox in their family. The fire in the backyard was about to burn her eyebrows, but this silly girl was still clueless. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and waved at Liana. Liana shifted forward, getting closer to Gu Mingming, waiting for her to answer her questions with a face full of curiosity. Gu Mingming pretended to be mysterious like an expert on the relationship between the sexes. Actually, other than drinking, there's another way to make a male look better. What is it? Liana's eyes immediately lit up, staring straight at Gu Mingming. That gaze? Yeah, was exactly the same as when Gu Mingming saw a 3% increase in salary on the payslip before she transmigrated. Urgency, desire, excitement. Gu Mingming nodded mysteriously, then whispered into Liana's ear, the secret is to kiss his lips 3 times a day. Whisper a word of love into his ear with a reason, the effect will be better. Persist for 81 days like this, and he will become better looking and more confident. Really? Liana said it as a question, but her tone was firm. Gu Mingming could even see the stars shining above her head and her eager eyes. Gu Mingming nodded, but this method can only be used once per female. Once you break it in the middle, it will not be effective anymore. So you have to persist for 81 days. Alright, I understand. Thank you, mighty messenger. Liana swore solemnly, almost kneeling down and kowtowing in worship. Gu Mingming smiled and waved her hands. Just as she was about to ask about that fox in their family, Liana beat her to it, looking up at Gu Mingming and asking, but, how long is 81 days? Holding her forehead, Gu Mingming had forgotten that females in the beast world could not count. 81 days was equivalent to 3 months, if she calculated it this way, Gu Mingming chuckled. Counting from today until the end of the monsoon season, it will be 81 days. Oh, okay, I understand. Liana clenched her fists and gestured in front of her chest. She made a gesture that seemed like she was cheering them on. Then she picked up her 2 sons and sat on the edge of the platform of the deity's punishment. She looked at the direction that the hunting team would definitely pass by when they returned. She muttered to herself, my sons, when your father returns, your mother will pounce on him. If he dares to resist, you two will help me hold him down. Do you hear me? Ayo ayo ayo, little Bun responded in a childish voice. Gu Mingming shook her head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 1164. Every year's first hunt was an important ritual. The males would fight with the most ferocious beasts and bring back the fattest prey for the tribes which doctored to sacrifice to the beast deity. But Saint Nazir was slightly different. Because of Gu Mingming's existence, the fattest prey was directly offered to Gu Mingming herself. Gu Mingming was happy to see this happen. After all, Saint Nazir was under her protection. Her father was busy watching television dramas every day, and even if the tribe really offered him food, he would not be able to eat it. It was not a bad idea to let her own daughter take advantage of it. When the running footsteps shook the ground, Gu Mingming knew that the warriors of the tribe had returned. The heroic aura that assaulted her made her feel excited. Gu Mingming stood up to welcome them. From afar, she saw Elvis carrying a giant beast and walking towards her in a heroic manner. As Elvis's footsteps got closer, the smile on Gu Mingming's face became more obvious. Elvis placed the giant beast on the platform of the deity's punishment for Leah to handle. The moment the beast was placed down, Gu Mingming had already crashed into Elvis's arms. Elvis lowered his head and kissed her hair. He pulled her into his arms and said with a voice full of smiles, "Did you miss me?" "Yeah," Gu Mingming admitted without any hesitation. Elvis felt a sweetness in his heart. He pinched Gu Mingming's little face and kissed her lips deeply. After a long while he let go and said, "I miss you too. I miss you so much that I go crazy the moment I see you. Why don't we let someone else be the tribe leader next year? Then I won't have to lead the tribe to hunt and stay by your side." Gu Mingming chuckled and bit Elvis's chin, saying, "Fatuous ruler. I will be whatever you say." Elvis's indulgence towards Gu Mingming had no bottom line. As long as she was happy, he would do anything. Gu Mingming lightly hammered Elvis's chest and said, "Let's get down to business first. Announce this year's #1 warrior." Elvis nodded and carried Gu Mingming in his arms. Although winter had ended, it was still cold. He was unwilling to let Gu Mingming stand on the ground, afraid that she would catch a cold. Moreover, he missed her so much that he was going crazy after not seeing her for half a day. Taking a deep breath, Elvis took 2 steps forward and said, "Based on the results of the first hunt, I announce that this year's #1 warrior of the tribe is Nelson." Roar. All the beasts cheered. Obviously, Narson deserved the title. Before the roar could finish, it came to an abrupt halt. Everyone looked at Liana, who had leaped down from the platform of the deity's punishment, as if their acupoints had been sealed. They were unable to react in time. That was because Liana had transformed into a half-orc and pounced down. Her 2 hands had turned into sharp claws that pressed down on Nelson's shoulders while her 2 legs were wrapped around Nelson's waist. Her eyes were so fierce that it seemed as though she wanted to start a fight with Nelson. Nelson had a dumbfounded expression on his face as he stared at Liana, who had suddenly pounced on him. He had no idea what she was going to do. "Don't move," Liana shouted. Gu Mingming facepalmed and thought to herself, "Oh my god, is this the seductive female from the beauty pageant? Are you sure you're not robbers from Liangshan?" Why did she have a feeling that Liana's next sentence would be, "Young master is so handsome, why don't you be my husband?" The feeling of... Chapter 1165. "I love you," Liana said with her eyes wide open. To be honest, this sentence did not sound like a confession, but more like extortion. If the words "I love you" were changed to "hand over the money," there would be no sense of awkwardness. Nelson was taken aback for a moment before his face blushed as if he was shy. He swallowed his saliva and nodded in response. Liana thought for a moment. Gu Mingming had mentioned that it would be better if she added a reason when she said she loved him. So she frowned, rolled her eyes and thought for a moment before saying, "Because you received the title of the strongest warrior in the tribe today, so I love you." Nelson nodded his head stiffly and said, Next year. I will try to get first again next year. Tisk, I told you not to move." Liana roared. Nelson immediately froze as if his acupoints had been pressed. "Not moving, not moving." Liana then nodded her head in satisfaction, then said, "Now I am going to kiss you." Nelson's eyes were filled with worry. Liana was too strange today. Although he hoped that Liana would like him a little more even in his dreams, he could not adapt to her sudden passion. "What? You are my male, can't I kiss you?" Liana glared at him, seemingly displeased. No, I can kiss you, of course I can kiss you." Just now, the warrior who did not even take half a step back in the face of a hungry tiger became a Hello Kitty in front of his own female. Hearing Nelson's words, Liana heaved a sigh of relief and said, Then listen carefully, I am going to kiss you now and I want to kiss you 3 times." "All right." Liana pressed Nelson down and kissed him 3 times, then nodded her head in satisfaction and said, I want to kiss you 3 times tomorrow and the day after. You have to automatically appear in front of me every day, do you hear me? Nelson's face was extremely red, not from shyness, but from an indescribable agitation and excitement. He could not explain what was going on, just that his heart was pounding and his mind was blank. TSK, did you hear me? Liana urged. Nelson nodded his head blankly and said, I heard you. Yes. Liana let go of Nelson's hand in satisfaction. She then dusted off her claws and stood up from Nelson's body. Gu Mingming could not help but want to clap for Liana. Sister, you are so domineering and mighty. It turns out that he didn't go all out when he was fighting Maya by the stream that day. The barbaric version of My Barbarian Girlfriend. TSK, Dodo, Salanghang. Leah placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder and played with Gu Mingming's fingers with the other. He looked at the crowd casually and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, should we take this chance to knock him down a peg? Gu Mingming followed Lee's gaze and looked down. Among the orcs, there was a male with fiery red hair who was staring coldly at Liana and Nelson. She chuckled and raised her voice saying, Warriors, you don't have to be so envious. As long as you work hard to improve your strength and display your best side in front of the female, I believe that the one you admire will definitely be able to see it. But there is one thing I need to make clear. That is, in the Saint Nazir tribe, I will definitely not allow anyone to frame the first partner and shake the unity of the tribe. Once I find out that someone has any thoughts that he should not have or coveted a position that he should not have, I will not let him off easily, understand? Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming did not interfere in this matter because it was someone else's business. The importance of the first partner's authority had been mentioned previously when Leah and Elvis were putting on an act to deceive Cole. Once another partner used the female's love to overthrow the first partner, countless others would follow suit, especially in a messenger tribe like Saint Nazir. If such a thing happened, it would definitely have a butterfly effect on the beast world, so Gu Mingming had to interfere. Chapter 1166. The sacrificial ceremony was long and boring. Gu Mingming lost interest after watching for a while. She might as well let Elvis bring her back to the cave for an afternoon nap and come out in the evening for the night campfire party. Due to the change of the first beauty of the tribe and the first beauty of the beast world, the seats on either side of Gu Mingming's campfire naturally became Liana's and Paige's seats, while Mandy sat beside Paige, which was considered a seat closer to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming was originally worried that Mandy would feel uncomfortable after falling from the position of the beast world's first beauty, but Mandy adopted a little eagle owl from Becky's family. She said that as long as the little guy successfully evolved, even if it was only a half-orc, she would mate with it. If the evolution failed, then it would stay by her side as a pet beast. Hence, Gu Mingming's heart was in a mess and she felt like she was square. In the future he might not be able to look Mandy in the eye. Child foster husband. What a perverted and weird auntie. You don't have to be so surprised. Leah waved his tail and tore off a piece of freshly roasted meat, sending it to Gu Mingming's mouth. If it wasn't for you protecting them so tightly, Huda and his brothers would have been snatched away to be reared the moment they appeared. Gu Mingming stared at Leah in disbelief with her beautiful eyes, then at Elvis. Elvis shrugged and said, the females among the stray beasts do not receive such treatment. Huda and his brothers are the first batch of cubs in Saint Nazir. In other words, he didn't know the market rate either. Leah chuckled. Let's not talk about the others, but Sandy already had designs on the 4 little ones. In the end, before she could even open her mouth, you killed her with the word, mother-in-law. That's why she didn't bring it up. Gu Mingming was even more shocked. Seeing her shocked expression, Leah could not help but feel amused. How could someone be so cute? I really want to take a bite and taste what she is made of. Pinching Gu Mingming's little face, Leah said, Bode told me Sandy said she wanted to raise Huda. But that was only in the beginning. Later on, I gave up on the idea. Gu Mingming felt like she was in a mess. Luckily Sandy was still upright, or else... thinking about how many times he had left the 4 little ones to Sandy to take care of, it was like pushing children into a fire pit. Fortunately, the fire pit had a conscience. Otherwise this kid... Oh my, just thinking about it gave me goosebumps. Not only that, Leah smiled wickedly, like a snake tempting Eve to eat an apple. He said seductively, Sandy still wants to gift 1 or 2 of the 3 Joseph brothers to you. What? Gu Mingming felt that she had used up all the exclamation marks in her life today. Quick, bring me my quick-acting heart reliever. Gu Mingming held onto her chest, looking like she could not take it anymore. Leah smiled brightly, pinching Gu Mingming's little face and shaking it left and right, saying, Elvis and I have already blocked it for you so you can save on your quick-acting heart reliever pill. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. Leah replied, Aren't you going to ask me how I blocked it? Gu Mingming looked up. How? Leah smiled ambiguously and said, I told her if she dares to stuff love rivals into my house, I will castrate all the males in her family, including the 3 Joseph brothers. Gu Mingming hugged her shoulders and exclaimed, Your jealousy is too strong. Chapter 1167. Gu Mingming hugged Li's neck and kissed him, saying, I don't blame you, you care about me, why would I blame you? But can you be gentler in the future? Sandy is timid, don't scare her. She's timid? Ah. Leah laughed coldly, saying, I think she has a lot of guts. Other than Sandy, there's probably no one else in the beast world who dares to force her way into fight for the love of Elvis and me. Gu Mingming chuckled, thinking about it, other than Sandy, no one else would dare to be so brazen in front of Elvis and Leah. Ha, I remember, she scolded you and Elvis before. Gu Mingming chuckled. Li's eyes drooped, saying, Yeah, only 2 people have scolded me like this in my life, one is you, the other is her. You scolded me, I admit defeat, who asked me to like you. But she scolded me, after scolding me I still have to thank her gratefully, Tiske. Why do I feel so cheap? Gu Mingming knew that Leah was referring to the time before they became partners, when she did not allow him to return to the cave. Sandy knew that Gu Mingming was in a bad mood, so she came to visit her, then saw Leah lying on a tree at the edge of the territory, scolded him and finally said, You deserve it. Then after entering the cave, put in all sorts of good words for Elvis and Leah in front of her. Elvis tightened his grip on Gu Mingming, then looked at Leah and said, You were only scolded, I was pointed at my nose and scolded, She even flashed her claws in front of me. I've never been so useless in my life, being suppressed by a female until I was helpless. Gu Mingming was stunned for 2 seconds, then she remembered that Elvis and Leah were not talking about the same thing. He should be talking about the time Cole cast a bewitching spell on Sandy, causing her to be confused and treat Cole as her partner, thinking that Elvis was covering up for Cole, so she pointed at his nose and scolded him. Sandy was tricked by Cole that time, it wasn't intentional. Moreover, she did it to protect me, hubby, don't hold a grudge. Elvis lowered his head and kissed Gu Mingming's little face. I endured it because I knew she was protecting you. Otherwise, I would have cut out her gallbladder and given it to you to go with your wine. Gu Mingming gave a look of disdain. Elvis squeezed Gu Mingming's little hand and said, Wolves are very vengeful animals. So, if one day she doesn't matter to you anymore, remember to tell me. I have to get back at her. Gu Mingming smiled and hugged Elvis's waist. She placed her little face on Elvis's chest, feeling extremely blissful. She understood Elvis's words. Elvis was saying, Sandy is someone you care about, so no matter what she does, I will endure it. Love me, love my dog. That was probably it. But thinking about Sandy, that little bear bun, who was usually so cowardly, actually dared to show his claws in front of Elvis and Cole that time, it was as if he had to risk his entire family's lives to avenge her. Silly girl, how could Gu Mingming not care about such a best friend? The atmosphere was just right. An eagle owl flew over at a low altitude and stopped in front of Gu Mingming. He bowed and said, Great messenger, the monkey from the previous time is here again. Monkey? Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment, unable to recall who it was. But Leah held onto Gu Mingming's little hand and smiled. Let him in, I want to see what kind of answer he has prepared. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1168. The eagle owl glanced at Gu Mingming. Seeing that Gu Mingming did not object, he then spread his wings and flew off. Not long after, the eagle owl brought Joshua back. Gu Mingming then remembered that this was Frank's witch doctor, a first-level orc from the ape tribe, who wanted to join the tribe before winter. Gu Mingming remembered that Leah had patted something on his shoulder and said that if he could find all the ingredients, he would allow him to join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor. Gu Mingming had asked Leah what he had patted on his shoulder, and Leah had only said mysteriously that he would not let someone who coveted Gu Mingming wander around Saint Nazir. But he did not tell Gu Mingming what exactly he had patted on his shoulder. After knowing about Maya's situation, Gu Mingming had placed all her attention on Maya. Moreover, Leah had been drunk for the entire winter, so Gu Mingming had forgotten about this matter. Now that Joshua was standing in front of Gu Mingming again, Gu Mingming was suddenly a little curious. Joshua spread out a piece of beast skin. There were 4 small pieces of beast skin wrapped in it. He opened them one by one and showed them to Leah. Yellow roots, chili, snake scales and salt crystals. I have found all 4 ingredients that you patted on my shoulder. Leah held his cheek and pinched the item that Joshua presented with his index finger. He smiled nonchalantly. This item is only half correct. Impossible. Joshua said with certainty. Mighty Leah, you are the favored son of the deity. You cannot deny it. Leah chuckled in an evil and arrogant manner. If I deny it, what can you do to me? Joshua clenched his fists tightly and could not say a word. He was just a first-level orc, what could he do to him? Back then, when he and Elvis fought for territory alone, even Franks could not stop them and allowed them to tear off a large piece of the tribe's territory. Now, not only had Leah leveled up to a 4th-level orc, he was also the male of the messenger of the beast deity. What could an orc like him, who was stuck at the 1st level, do to him? There was nothing he could do. Leah swayed his tail and continued. But, my Ming Ming still cherishes this face of mine, so I have to be careful when I throw it. Joshua lifted his head and looked at Leah with an urgent gaze. Leah picked up the pepper and said, although the quality is not as good as the ones I picked, at least the species is correct. So I'll give you a pass for these 2. With that, he used his finger to pick up the salt crystal and chuckled. This salt crystal. You stole it from the salt lake in St. Nazaire, didn't you? Joshua lowered his head in embarrassment. The beast world lord took things by force, strength was everything. If it was a robbery, then it was justified. But stealing was a very dishonorable thing to do. But the truth was, this piece of salt crystal was indeed stolen by him when the people of St. Nazaire were busy preparing food for the winter. Joshua nodded with much difficulty. Yes. Leah smiled as he placed the salt crystals down, then said, I did pat salt on your shoulder, but it's not lake salt, it's sea salt ground from sea salt crystals. You represented Frankston to collect water, so you should know that St. Nazaire once had a mermaid, right? Because of that fish, the well had almost been destroyed. As a witch doctor, Joshua was naturally aware of it. Chapter 1169. Not long after, Leah retrieved the salt crystals that Fei Rue had left behind from the cave. As there was only 1 piece of sea salt and it was definitely not enough to marinate meat, Leah had not used it much. He only used it occasionally when cooking fish in the cave. He scraped off a little with his fingernail and showed it to Joshua. Joshua carefully compared it to the lake salt he brought with him. Be it the color, the size of the particles, or even the color and smell, they were different to a certain extent. Joshua hung his head and said dejectedly, I will make a trip to the seaside and retrieve the sea salt from the mermaid tribe. Please give me another chance. Leah shook his head and said, the sea salt is not the key is this. Leah pinched that piece of snake scale through the beast's skin and clicked his tongue. What I gave you was a deity's punishment scale that was strengthened by the beast king's fury. You actually used a wild beast snake scale to brush me off? No matter how ignorant you are, you can't pass off tree bark as a lingji, right? Joshua looked at Leah in shock. A deity's punishment scale enhanced by the beast king's fury? He understood the deity's punishment scale. It meant that males who did something wrong would kneel on the platform of the deity's punishment for 3 days and 3 nights. If they could not endure it, it meant that the beast deity was unwilling to forgive them. Such people would be punished by the tribe's witch doctor. They would peel off their skin and make it into a flag to be placed on the highest mountain peak of the tribe to express their repentance to the beast deity. But the beast king's fury, that was something that only existed in legends. The beast king was the beast deity's most beloved child. He was bestowed with the power of a demigod by the beast deity and could command the entire tribe. Any disobedience was equivalent to offending the deity, and it was an unforgivable sin. The current beast king was Gu Mengmeng, but she was not from the snake tribe. Wait a minute. So the scale on his shoulder was the deity's punishment personally executed by the mighty Snake King Valley when he was still alive? After Joshua understood, he immediately lowered his body. Even if he had to dive into the sea to search for salt crystals, he was willing to try. Even if he could not swim, he would still be able to think of a way. But that mighty one was already dead, and he would never be able to obtain another deity's punishment scale enhanced by the Beast King's fury. Gu Mingming tugged at Li's beastskin skirt and asked, "The scale you are talking about, could it be Ellie?" Leah nodded. "It's her scales. I went back to pick it up when you were unconscious." Gu Mingming felt slightly disgusted and asked, "Why did you pick it up?" Leah said as if he was intentionally teasing Gu Mingming, "Didn't you say that her snake skin was smooth and felt good?" Chapter 1171. Leah and Elvis didn't have any objections. After all, Li's place used to be used for meetings. It was just that after Gu Mingming appeared, they had gotten used to surrounding her and never returned. However, Li's place was rather special. Even if Leah no longer stayed here, no one in the tribe dared to lay their hands on this place, so it had always been left unused. Gu Mingming sat at the entrance of Li's cave. She had no intention of entering. Even if Leah no longer stayed here, she didn't like anyone related to Cole entering. Elvis and Leah sat beside Gu Mingming. They remained silent and let her make the decision. Gu Mingming leaned back in Elvis's arms. She looked at Joshua. "All right, there's no one else here. You can speak now." Joshua lowered his head. "Cole was the one who told me about the heart of the desert." Gu Mingming raised her brows. She didn't expect Joshua to tell her so directly. After all, Fei Rui had come here because of Cole's scheme. Fei Rui still didn't know that it was Cole who had the information about the kiss of the ocean. After that, Cole didn't appear personally at the soul of the forest. Instead, he instructed Dora to lead Leonard by the nose. This time he actually appeared personally to tell Joshua about the heart of the desert? It seemed like Li's guess was right. It was too hasty for Cole to use the entire winter to set up a plan. Was that why he was so perfunctory? Or, since she already knew it was him, why not just hide it? Then why did she still need to borrow Joshua's words? Couldn't he just tell her directly? Joshua clenched his fists. "I want to join Saint Nazir because I like the great messenger. I want to woo her. So, I cannot lie to you. I cannot hide anything. Even if I am standing in front of you right now, we still seem to be separated by a galaxy. I don't want to use lies to widen this galaxy. So, I will tell you everything I know honestly. I will use this method to prove my loyalty to you." Upon hearing Joshua's words, Gu Mingming instinctively glanced at Leah. Then she asked Joshua with a chuckle, "Did Cole teach you to say that?" Joshua shook his head and said, "I told him that I would tell you the truth. He didn't say anything." Leah sighed and acted pitiful in front of Gu Mingming as if he was begging for mercy. "I know I was wrong to hide many things from you in the past, but it has already been more than 2 years and you still want to bring up the past?" Gu Mingming raised her head and said, "Why? You can't flip it?" Leah tapped Gu Mingming's little nose helplessly and indulgently. Yes, you are my little princess. How can I reject anything you want?" Gu Mingming chuckled and ignored Li's flirting. She looked at Joshua and said, "All right, I got it. Go on. How much do you know about the heart of the desert? Or rather, how much did Cole tell you?" Joshua nodded and replied, "The heart of the desert is in the Mecca Desert, guarded by a rank 5 giant scorpion. It was dry all year round and not even a blade of grass grew there. It was a vast sea of sand. Without someone familiar with the terrain to lead the way, it was basically impossible to get out after entering. So." Chapter 1172. Joshua shook his head and said, "It's not me. I really want to request to go with you, but I know that with my abilities as a first-level beast, I will only be a burden. So, I will not trouble the great messenger. I will stay in Saint Nazir as the witch doctor when you and Sir Leah are not around to guard your tribe and wait for your return." Gu Mingming thought that there were many places she had to visit in a year. With Huda and Jianghu and Sauter, she had to visit her 2 sons and Sandy every year. Zacharias had Qixin and Kanwu, so she had to take some time out every year to visit them in Natalie. As the saintess of the Snake King Valley, even if she did not have to return every year, she had to go back occasionally to show her face and let everyone know that she was still alive and remembered the Snake King Valley. This was to deter people from sneaking into the Snake King Valley during the winter to plot against them. Therefore, based on this calculation, there was not much time that she could stay in Saint Nazir in a year. There were 16 valued females in Saint Nazir and now there were 8 more cubs. They really needed a witch doctor. But, could anyone who had ties with Cole be trusted? Alright, from today onwards, you are the witch doctor of Saint Nazir. Leah hugged Gu Mingming's shoulders and agreed readily. Leah. Gu Mingming frowned. She did not blame him for making the decision on his own, but she did not trust the person Cole had sent over. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's little chin and smiled as if he was asking for her affection. With someone holding the title of Saint Nazir's witch doctor, I can be free and focus on taking care of you. Isn't that good? My queen. But, Gu Mingming's heart itched. She could never be immune to Li's teasing. Leah pecked her lips lightly and said, This fellow wants to cross the Milky Way to come to your side. He will not do something so foolish as to drown himself halfway. If he really does it, don't worry, Elvis and I have ways to make him beg for death. Gu Mingming thought to herself, if Cole really made use of Joshua to bring disaster to Saint Nazir, not to mention torturing Joshua. Even torturing Cole would be useless. As if he had seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts, Leah gently bit her left earlobe and said, "In the past, in order to compete with Cole, I placed great importance on Saint Nazir. Because of this I almost lost you. But now Saint Nazir is nothing in my eyes. Ha, do you think Cole still has the interest to destroy a tribe that I don't even care about?" Gu Mingming thought about it. If there was no goalkeeper, would there still be the desire to shoot? He chuckled and said, "I understand. I'll listen to you." "Good girl," Leah praised Gu Mingming's forehead before whispering into her ear, "From today onwards, I'm no longer the witch doctor of Saint Nazir, but the Ninth Highness who belongs to you alone." Leah nodded. Gu Mingming chuckled. Chapter 1173. Her smile was like a flower and her watery face attracted his attention, making him even more determined to cross the Milky Way. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that when he heard Gu Mingming calling him, he was dazed for a moment. After being stunned for a moment, he finally regained his senses and answered, "Oriton." "Oriton." Gu Mingming was surprised by this answer. That foodie could not see anything else other than food. Elvis and Leah were also familiar with him. If he was not someone they could trust, Elvis and Leah would never allow him to hang around Gu Mingming, not to mention letting him become the messenger's guard. Initially, Elvis had his eyes on Oriton because he had no worries and no weaknesses. Cole or anyone else would not be able to threaten him with Gu Mingming's methods. If Cole could pull Oriton over to his side, unless Cole was good at cooking and could cook better food than Leah. But this possibility was almost zero, because Gu Mingming clearly knew that Cole still maintained his habit of eating raw meat to prevent the wildness in him from degenerating. He did not cook at all. Could it be a plan to sow discord between them? Was he trying to plot against everyone around Gu Mingming until they were all disloyal? Gu Mingming squinted her eyes as if she was scrutinizing Joshua. Joshua clenched his fists and continued, "There's a Fedatan city in the Mecca Desert. The city master there, Bayan, is the guardian of the heart of the desert. And Oriton was born in that Fedatan city." "Cole told you all these too?" Gu Mingming asked. Joshua nodded his head honestly, not daring to hide anything. "Is there anything else?" Gu Mingming asked nonchalantly. Joshua shook his head and said, "He only told me this much." Gu Mingming stretched lazily, then leaned into Elvis's arms and said, "You should be very familiar with the territory of Saint Nazir. Find a place to settle down." "Yes, thank you, great messenger, for fulfilling my wish." The paper bag secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He finally got closer to Gu Mingming. Even if it was just a little bit closer, it was enough to comfort him. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and left. Leah swayed his tail and said to Joshua, "Then I'll have to trouble the witch doctor for the tribe in the future." "Yes." Joshua was very respectful towards Leah. One reason was because he was Gu Mingming's most favored partner. If he wanted to become Gu Mingming's partner in the future, it would not be wrong to build a good relationship with this Sir Leah. Secondly, Leah did have outstanding knowledge and abilities in the field of witch doctors. As a witch doctor as well, Joshua naturally respected him. Leah could not be bothered to stand on ceremony with Joshua. He wagged his tail and chased after Gu Mingming seductively. They chatted and laughed as they returned to their cave. After returning to the cave, Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and asked, "Hubby, you have been silent the entire way, what's wrong? Is there something on your mind?" Elvis frowned and nodded. Then he looked at Leah with a deep gaze. Gu Mingming chuckled. "What? He's been acting like a drunkard for the whole winter. Are you not used to it when he suddenly stops? Then let her play with your tail for a while. She won't feel comfortable if she doesn't have something furry in her arms." Elvis ignored Leah and just placed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mingming was fearless. She held it in her arms and stroked it to her heart's content. "So, you intend to find the heart of the desert first?" Elvis asked. Chapter 1175. "I have no objections, I will listen to you." Gu Mingming chuckled in Elvis's arms. "We definitely cannot bring little shit along when we go to the Mecca Desert. I don't know how he is going to mess with me." Elvis played with Gu Mingming's little hand. "Why don't I fight with him the moment he arrives? We can leave after he is satisfied. Then he won't mess around anymore." Gu Mingming shook her head. "I don't think so. Based on Wabiai's ability to take a beating, only Elvis could give him a good thrashing. Even the current Gu Mingming would find it difficult to make Wabiai fight with all his might because of the difference in their physiques, not to mention Elvis, who was just a little wolf in his eyes." The next morning, Oriton carried his hunted prey over to share a meal. After enduring for an entire winter, he was already craving for food. If not for the fact that he had eaten quite a lot of roasted meat at the night campfire party, he would have charged into Elvis's cave and kidnapped Gu Mingming to force Leah to cook for him. Leah took the ingredients Oriton brought over and started preparing to cook. Meanwhile, Gu Mingming called Oriton, who was circling the pot, over. Based on the premise that Leah would definitely cut off his meals if Gu Mingming did not agree and that he could not defeat Gu Mingming's family of 3, Oriton obediently sat diagonally across from Gu Mingming with a poker face. His eyes were constantly attracted by the huge stone pot beside Lee's hand, but he tried his best to sit upright and expressionless. "How much do you know about the Mecca Desert?" Gu Mingming went straight to the point. Oriton was clearly taken aback. His face was expressionless and he did not even frown. However, Gu Mingming noticed that his pupils dilated in that instant. After pausing for about 5 seconds, Oriton finally replied, "I was born there and am quite familiar with it." "What about Bayan? Do you know him?" Gu Mingming continued asking. Oriton nodded. After thinking for a while, he shook his head. "Everyone in the Mecca Desert knows about Bayan, but no one has seen him before. He is more like a legendary character." "What do you mean?" Gu Mingming pressed. Oriton glanced at Lee's pot. The meat had just been placed in the pot and would need some time before it could be eaten. This period of time should be sufficient for him to tell Gu Mingming stories. With that thought, Oriton retracted his gaze from Lee's pot and focused on Gu Mingming. He said, "Bayan was one of the partners of the previous messenger of the beast deity, but for some unknown reason he was abandoned and became a stray beast. This was something that happened more than 1,000 years ago. It was said that he was still alive but no one had seen him. Just like Snake in the past, he was not in the beast world, but everyone in the beast world knew about him." Wang Xiaoxin's partner. Gu Mingming instinctively said the name of the previous messenger of the beast deity. The main thing was that they came from the same era and knew each other very well. She and Wang Xiaoxin might have even passed each other on the streets before. She really could not do things like the people in the beast world and respectfully greet the messenger of the beast deity, or even worship something like 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. Chapter 1176. Damn it. Gu Mingming felt as though 10,000 beasts were galloping in her heart. If it was said that Sandy and Liana were females in the beast world and were used to keeping a cub as a partner, then Wang Xiaoxin was a real modern person and she was highly educated. How could she do something so immoral? Gu Mingming felt that she could not face Snake anymore. If she had known earlier, she would not have told Snake, "Your mother is a joker," back at the Snake King Valley. She should have said, "Your mother is a pervert, do you know that?" Gu Mingming had goosebumps all over her body, her face full of disgust. He sighed and relayed Joshua's words to Oriton without hiding anything. After she finished, she asked, "So, I want to make a trip to Fedatin City in the Mecca Desert. Can you lead the way for me?" Oriton turned to look at Leah, then at Elvis. Then he nodded his head seriously and said, "All right, I will accompany you." After Oriton agreed, Leah then carried the stone pot to the table and scooped a bowl of meat for Oriton with a grin. "Here, you guys eat first. I will set up another pot to stew more." Oriton nodded. This was the first time Leah had treated Oriton so well that Oriton was a little overwhelmed by the favor. Gu Mingming chuckled. She knew that Oriton admired Elvis and even treated him as his life goal, following his way of living. That was also why he was willing to join Saint Nazir. But it started with admiration and ended with the stove. In the end, the one who truly conquered Oriton was not herself, the messenger of the beast deity, nor was it Elvis, the spiritual role model, but Lee's big pot. Gu Mingming knew that Fedatin City might not be a hometown with good memories for Oriton, because when he heard the words Mecca Desert, he was obviously taken aback for a moment. That was not an expression that one would have for a hometown that was filled with nostalgia. But he was still willing to accompany her, probably because he wanted to learn more from Elvis and follow Leah to have meat to eat. As expected, to conquer a male, one must first conquer his stomach. After Oriton finished his third bowl of meat, his craving for food for the entire winter was finally alleviated. He felt more relaxed and finally had the mood to say to Gu Mingming, "But you have to be mentally prepared. Bayan has been hiding even deeper than Snakel all these years, it's not easy to find him." Gu Mingming thought about it. If he was Wang Xiaoxin's partner, then he should have met whales before. Then, having inherited the memories from Snake, she should have some impression of Bayan. But why was there no impression at all? That was strange, unless Wang Xiaoxin had abandoned Higgin before she mated with whales. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to have no impression of him. However, Gu Mingming had no interest in guessing the emotional entanglements from 1,000 years ago. Chapter 1177. I advise you not to underestimate your enemy. Oriton poured a bucket of cold water on Gu Mingming. Although you have the powers of a beast king, the desert is not like this place. There are quicksand whirlpools everywhere. If you miss your step, you may be buried in the sand and not even your bones will be left. Meanwhile, the scorpion can move freely under the sea of sand. So even if you have the powers of a beast king, you may not be able to take advantage of that 1,000-year-old monster. Damn it, one really could not compare one's age in this beast world. How could they be thousands of years old at the drop of a hat? Despite her complaints, Gu Mingming still nodded. Alright, I understand. Gu Mingming's appetite was limited. Elvis and Leah were counting on Oriton to lead the way for Gu Mingming, so they naturally would not snatch his food. So other than the small bowl that Gu Mingming ate, the rest of the food in the 2 pots went into Oriton's stomach. Oriton suddenly felt that it was not a big deal to return to that place. As long as there was meat to eat, it did not matter where he went. After breakfast, Elvis carried Gu Mingming to the empty ground beside the cave to bask in the sun. Gu Mingming leaned lazily in his arms, squinting her eyes like a coquettish kitten. Why don't you meet the beast deity before Wabiai arrives? On one hand, you can ask about the heart of the desert. On the other hand, you can meet that person in advance so that Wabiai won't pester you endlessly. Gu Mingming considered Elvis's suggestion and felt that it was very reasonable. Because of Oakley's matter, she received fatherly care and warmth from the beast deity when her heart was heavy. She should not only look for the beast deity when she needed it, but she did not know why it had developed into a situation where she would not go to the beast deity for no reason. It seemed like she would only return home to show filial piety to her parents when she needed to collect money. Gu Mingming laughed softly and shook her head slowly. What are you laughing at? Elvis curled his lips and asked softly. Gu Mingming replied, I was reprimanded by my father the last time I went back. Beast deity? Elvis frowned. Another opponent he could not defeat or even defeat. He clearly knew that Xiaoming had been wronged, but he did not even know how to find her to vent her anger. A deep sense of helplessness washed over him. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her. Sorry you have been wronged. Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. What's so bad about being scolded by my own father? There is a saying where we come from that goes, a dutiful son is born under the rod. Spare the rod and spoil the child, and a loving mother spoils the child. My father only said a few words and that was already considered polite. I used to have a classmate who accepted a confession from a boy in her class in her 2nd year of high school. Chapter 1178. To Elvis, he could never understand what the males in that world were thinking. Since he did not like females, why would he go and provoke them? If he liked them, why would he bear to let her suffer like that? Sighing, Elvis didn't continue asking about Gu Mingming's classmate. He just hugged and kissed Gu Mingming. Then why didn't you tell me that you were reprimanded by the beast deity? Gu Mingming chuckled. Because father did not reprimand me too harshly. I just acted cute and got away with it. Why did I come back to complain about it when it was not painful? Tell me, what did the beast deity say about you? His precious baby, whom he could not bear to say a harsh word about, was scolded by others. Even if it was the beast deity, Elvis could not tolerate it. Although he could not do anything to the beast deity now, wouldn't he still die one day? When he died, he would return to the beast deity's embrace. By then, Gu Mingming didn't know what Elvis was thinking. She repeated what the beast deity had said the other day about her being a daughter who had been married off. She had forgotten about her father after getting a husband. Although it was not serious, Elvis still kissed Gu Mingming with heartache. Can you negotiate with the beast deity to let me follow you the next time you meet him? If he is unhappy with you, he can vent it on me. I will let him hit and scold me as he pleases, alright? How can we be together when we are dreaming? Gu Mingming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My father is a deity after all. He won't abuse me. Don't worry. Elvis didn't say anything. He just sighed. His heart was in his throat the moment Gu Mingming went to see the beast deity. Gu Mingming knew what Elvis was worried about. She caressed his face with her little hands. I will ask my father when I go over. If there is a way, I will bring you and Leah back to be his live-in son-in-law. Alright, alright. Elvis placed his forehead gently on Gu Mingming's. He was full of indulgence. Leah came to Gu Mingming's side after greeting Oriton. He asked lazily, what do you plan to do with the one in Maya's stomach? That's right, The way to deal with that stomach had to be decided as soon as possible so that Leah could make the necessary arrangements. Even though he was Cole's son, no matter how bad his parents were, the little boy who was not even the size of a soybean was innocent. Even the triads knew that one's wife and children should not be implicated. There was no reason for Gu Mingming to not tolerate Cole and Maya's children just because she hated them. But, if the biological parents wanted to kill their own children, Gu Mingming did not feel that she had the right and obligation to stop them. After all, if someone stood at the entrance of the obstetrics and gynecology department and preached that every life should be treated with kindness, to every patient who was about to undergo an abortion, they would probably be arrested by the Qingshan Mental Hospital. She didn't have the right to decide, but regardless of whether the child was born or not, she would be the one to clean up the mess in the end. This was so frustrating. What right did he have? She wasn't the one who got Maya pregnant. Gu Mingming frowned in disdain. Every time she felt that Cole was extremely disgusting and could not be any more disgusting, Cole would come up with a new trick. It was as though he was smiling at her and saying, Hey, are you looking down on me? I can be even more disgusting. Chapter 1179. Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Leah. What? Throw Maya into the well and drown her? Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose. You want to waste a well just for Maya? Aren't you being too wasteful, Mingming? Then what should I do? Gu Mingming asked. Leah smiled, a crafty glint in his eyes. He looked like a leisurely fox. Although he looked lazy and casual, he had already schemed against her from start to finish. Mingming, do you know when stray beasts are usually the most aggressive? Leah asked softly. Gu Mingming replied. Probably during the rainy season when winter is approaching. They snatch food quite fiercely. Leah nodded. What else? What else? Gu Mingming shook her head in confusion. And when winter has just ended. Leah chuckled. The females snatched back last year could not survive the winter. They either froze to death or starved to death, or became food for stray beasts. So after winter ends, stray beasts would attack tribes at all costs to snatch new females. In the past, they always chose to do so during beauty pageants, because the strongest warriors in the tribe would be escorting the tribe's #1 beauty to the pageant. So it was the easiest time to snatch the females. But ever since you reformed the beauty pageant system 2 years ago, this opportunity no longer existed. So last year, the stray beasts attacked the tribes the moment winter ended, catching all the tribes by surprise and snatching away many of their females. Gu Mingming listened for a long while before gradually understanding. You found someone to disguise as stray beasts to attack tribes and snatch Maya away? Gu Mingming asked. Leah shook his head. There's no need to disguise. Just ask the real stray beast to come and snatch her away. Gu Mingming was confused. Cole is the leader of the stray beast. Why would the stray beast go against his wishes to snatch the person he planted? Leah coughed softly. Hiding his smile, he said, Have you forgotten that we still have a stray beast young master in our family? Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment. She widened her eyes. You mean Qixin? No way. I don't agree. I definitely cannot let Qixin have anything to do with Cole. Qixin is now in Zacharias, which borders the stray beast camp. If Cole wants to contact Qixin, it will be much more convenient than before. Leah explained slowly to Gu Mingming, so for this matter we are mainly testing Qixuan's attitude. If Qixin is willing to help, it means that he is no longer under Cole's control. It's just that a bewitching spell cannot be undone for now and we cannot kill Cole. But if he is still on Cole's side, then we don't have to look for the heart of the desert anymore. We can set off for Zacharias immediately. Even if we have to tie him up, I will help you to tie your son up and not let Cole touch a single strand of his wolf hair. This. Gu Mingming was still very hesitant. Humans were always so contradictory. Ling spirit, Elvis snake, Mo clan stone how dragon deity how Shenlong he said, Moo with this understanding, Gu Mingming felt that at least she had a clear sense of direction and did not need to be so conflicted anymore. She wrapped her arms around the beast deity's arm and asked, I remember that the previous episode was about them sharing the same bed. Are you sure there won't be any scenes that need to be censored? This is a pure idol drama after all. The beast deity nodded solemnly and said, Don't worry, I've seen the trailer. There's no need to censor anything. Gu Mingming smiled and gestured to the beast deity to start acting. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.